In the 6th year after the divorce, I ran into Margarita at the cake shop. When the clerk saw her, she showed a familiar smile. "Professor Castillo, here again to buy strawberry cake for your husband." "Same as usual, right? I've already packed it for you." Margarita Castillo nodded. Seeing the 2 boxed mango cakes in my hand, she took the initiative to tell the clerk, "Put his on my bill as well." I politely refused and took out my phone first to scan and pay, but she swiped her card faster. "This cake is $598 per piece. You used to have to save for a long time before you were willing to buy even 1 piece. I'm a university professor after all. Financially I'm a bit better off than you. Don't stand on ceremony." I still refused to accept it. She glanced at my outfit and sighed. "Fabian, it's been so many years. Are you still sulking?" I gave a faint smile. "You're overthinking it." I gently touched the wedding ring on my ring finger. "I've long had a new wife and a child. Where would I find the time to be sulking at another woman?" Chapter 1. Margarita moved too fast and swiped her card before I could stop her. I refused to accept it and insisted on paying for myself. The shop clerk gave an apologetic smile. "Sir, I'm really sorry, but this lady has already paid for you. Maybe you can transfer the money to her." I turned around and spoke politely. "Please open your payment code. I'll pay you back." Margarita let out a helpless sigh and handed me the packed cake box. "Fabian, just take it. Your birthday is in 3 days. Consider these 2 pieces of cake my gift to you." Her voice was sincere. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my payment code. "Scan mine." I don't like owing people anything, especially for just 2 pieces of cake. My afternoon tea with my son. Seeing how stubborn I was, Margarita stayed silent for a long moment before finally taking out her phone. "You're still the same as before." I didn't say anything and lowered my head to transfer the money. Margarita stopped me. "Fabian, you really don't have to be so serious about this." Her eyes swept over my washed-out, worn jacket, and she hesitated. "I don't need this 1,000+ yuan. You might as well use it to buy a couple of outfits." I froze for a second, then I understood and smiled. Earlier during my volunteer work, I had given my jacket to a little boy who was soaked in the rain. But it's autumn now, the weather is getting colder, and on the way back I casually borrowed a security guard's jacket to keep warm. Margarita probably thinks I'm doing very poorly these days. I didn't bother explaining. I simply said, "Thank you," and turned to leave, but someone grabbed my arm from behind. "Let me drive you." I stiffened and shook her hand off. "That won't be necessary. Your husband might misunderstand." Margarita's hand, which had been reaching out to take mine again, froze awkwardly. She knew. Her husband, 8 years younger than her, was the type who loved to act cute and get jealous. "Fabian." Margarita still grabbed my arm. "How about we exchange contact information?" I lowered my head, silent. 6 years ago, when we divorced, things got ugly. We didn't just delete each other, we blocked everything and swore we'd never cross paths again. I shook my head. "Let's not. Fabian, you don't have to stay mad at me. So many years have passed. I just hope you can live a better life." She said she wanted to add my contact to send me some money. Just think of it as compensation for back then. I suddenly wanted to laugh. Back then I caused a huge scene, throwing away every bit of dignity I had. Yet I didn't manage to get even a single cent of compensation. Now that I don't need her anymore, she comes to me, saying she wants to offer it voluntarily. "Baby, I called you just now, why didn't you answer? Who are you talking to?" While I was spacing out, a young man in a beige hoodie bounced over and wrapped his arm around Margarita. When he saw it was me, his smile froze briefly, but soon he brightened again. "Fabian, it's you. Long time no see. Why don't we grab a meal together?" I hadn't even reacted yet. Nestor grabbed my arm affectionately, his voice loud and boisterous. "Fabian, we've been looking for you these 6 years. You completely disappeared. Even your former co-workers thought you moved abroad. Where have you been all this time?" Chapter 2. I quietly studied the young man in front of me. He had changed so much that I could barely recognize him. Back then, he'd had dark skin, simple clothes, and eyes like a frightened little deer, a poor student through and through. But after 6 years of Margarita's meticulous care, he had grown into a dazzling sunflower. I gave a polite yet distant smile. "I did go abroad." Nestor stared at me with wide, surprised eyes. "Really? But Fabian, I went looking for you several times back then. They all said that after the divorce, you went back to your hometown." He spoke without restraint, but before he could finish, Margarita cut him off. "Enough. Don't bring up the past." She affectionately ruffled his hair. "The little cakes I bought for you will melt soon if you don't eat them." Nestor munched on the small cake as he spoke unclearly, trying to keep me from leaving. "Fabian, it's such a rare coincidence running into you. Let us treat you to dinner." "About what happened back then?" "I know you hate us, but you helped me. You sponsored my entire 4 years of college. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today." Nestor looked so sincere that rejecting him felt like I'd be the unreasonable one. I glanced down at my watch. It was still early. All right, I only have an hour and a half. They chose the restaurant. Along the way, the young man chirped nonstop and even fed Margarita cake mouth to mouth. Because I was there, Margarita held his restless hand. Her movements a bit stiff. Behave. Fabian is watching. Nestor playfully stuck out his tongue. Sorry, Fabian. We've been married for years and are used to interacting like this. Sometimes we even can't resist kissing while walking down the street. Sorry if it makes you uncomfortable. I silently watched the flash of provocation and pride in his eyes and simply smiled. It's fine. After all, when you were in college, you also couldn't resist sleeping with her in my house. I'm used to it. The atmosphere froze instantly. Nestor and Margarita's expressions turned a bit ugly. I, however, remained calm and continued walking forward. Before getting to the restaurant, we passed a fireworks shop. Nestor's excitement ignited instantly. He dragged Margarita inside. Baby, didn't you say you're going to set off fireworks across the whole city for my birthday in 3 days? I want to pick out the style first. Fabian, you don't mind, right? I smiled. Not at all. But Margarita gave me a meaningful look before turning to choose fireworks. This one, Tears of the Sea. I froze. Memories I had almost forgotten, those distant, buried ones, rushed back all at once. Margarita used to love me deeply. We dated for 4 years and were married for 6. Everyone said she was famous in our circle for being a devoted wife who spoiled her husband to extremes. As a university professor, she refused social gatherings, and when male students asked for her contact information, she would coldly reject them. Among all the academic books she published, there was only one exception, Confessions of Love. She wrote it specifically for me. The entire university praised our beautiful, legendary romance. Every year on my birthday, she would light up the whole city with fireworks for me. But everything changed the day I found a photo, an intimate one, tucked inside one of Margarita's books. The boy in the photo was very young, wearing extremely short shorts, straddling her thighs as he smiled at the camera. I recognized him instantly. That boy was no stranger. He was the one who used to sweetly follow me around calling me brother. The poor student I personally supported for 3 years, Nestor. He was also one of the students in Margarita's class. Back then, on a day of heavy rain, he was cornered and bullied by a group of thugs in an alley, and I stepped in to save him. I took him home, let him shower and change his clothes. When he saw Margarita, he was frightened. I smiled and comforted him. Don't be scared. Professor Castillo doesn't eat people. Later, he gradually became braver. He even began carefully going to the study to ask Margarita academic questions. Seeing them get along so well, I couldn't help feeling pleased. Until later, I found their intimate photo on Margarita's computer. After discovering it, I went hysterical and stormed into the study. And of course, I saw that very pair of teacher and student, who were supposed to be discussing academic problems, entangled desperately against the desk. I lost my dignity. I lost my composure. And I screamed like a madman. I questioned Margarita. Why was she cheating right under my nose? But Margarita only cared about shielding the man beside her, covering him completely, lifting her head with cold, furious eyes. Get out. Fabian, have you no shame? We're not done. Indeed, women can be cruel and merciless. When they love you, they can give you their life, but once they stop loving you, they can strip you to the bone. Chapter 3. I smashed everything I could grab in every room until it was all in pieces. I couldn't believe it, no matter how hard I tried. One of them was the woman I had loved for nearly 10 years. The other was the poor student I had supported for 3 years, treating him like my own younger brother. Yet the two of them had been entangled right under my nose while I was cooking, and openly wrapped around each other in the study, using the excuse of academic discussions to commit their dirty deeds. My whole body trembled violently, my eyes bloodshot, completely unable to accept any of it. Margarita looked at me with disgust, stubbornly shielding Nestor behind her the entire time. Fabian, you're acting like a lunatic. You'd better calm down. If you dare lay a finger on Nestor, I won't forgive you. Nestor hid behind her, the red marks on his neck still visible, crying in hiccups. Fabian, I'm sorry. I'm the one who wronged you. I know this is immoral, but I still fell in love with Professor Castillo. Please. I don't want any status. I just want to be with Professor Castillo. Please let us be together. Okay. I was stunned. Do you even understand that you're the homewrecker, the one breaking into someone else's marriage? I don't care. Nestor shouted back just as loudly, like someone desperately fighting for his freedom. We're attracted to each other physically. Fabian, even if you hadn't saved me, I had already fallen for Professor Castillo back at school, and she felt the same. Seeing his stubborn and fearless expression, I suddenly remembered that rainy night when I brought him home. Because I saved him, those thugs targeted me for a long time. 4 weeks. I didn't dare walk down that street again. Only after reporting it to the police was the matter settled. I had never once regretted saving Nestor, but that night, I hated myself for being so kind. For giving another man the chance to get close to my wife. 10 years. Those were my 10 years. I refused to accept the truth. I made myself a mess, hair wild, eyes crazed, demanding to know when it started. Looking back now, I was truly foolish. Everything had already happened. What meaning was there in tracing the timeline? But back then, all I had was fire, rage blistering in my chest. I was full of the fury of betrayal. Fabian, stop making a scene. Nestor needs to focus on his studies. He won't fight you for anything, and he doesn't want any status. After putting her clothes back on, Margarita had the audacity to comfort me confidently. You won't need to sponsor Nestor anymore. I'll take care of all his expenses. Nestor never returned to our home again, but the places they went on dates became more and more numerous. Cafes, restaurants, libraries, even hotels. I began observing them like a lunatic. Margarita never used to work on Saturdays, but ever since she grew close to Nestor, she suddenly had to go to the university every Saturday. I turned into a stalker, following her by taxi, and I saw them kissing passionately under the teaching building. Losing control, they climbed into that car, the car I had bought as a birthday gift for Margarita. Minutes later, it began rocking, steadily, rhythmically. That time, I rushed forward and smashed the car on the spot, leaving them both utterly embarrassed. But Margarita was determined to protect him. She treated me like a madman and had security throw me out. Chapter 4. For a long period afterward, I caused many disgraceful scenes. I put up banners and made a scene at the university where Margarita worked. Even going to Nestor's classroom, I wished the whole world would know he was the homewrecker. He was the poor student I had sponsored, someone I once treated like my own younger brother. The better I had treated him, the more I hated him now. There were so many women in the world, why did he have to covet my wife? I wanted to tell everyone he was an ungrateful backstabber, and that Margarita was the most deceitful liar under the sun. Our once beautiful love had already been torn beyond recognition. Afraid I would escalate things and ruin Nestor's reputation and academic future, Margarita hired bodyguards to keep me confined. I even hurt myself many times. That feeling of being abandoned by the whole world, like swallowing bitterness with no way to speak it out, drove me to desperately seek an outlet. Back then, whenever I so much as got a small cut, Margarita would frown in heartache, but later, she became more and more impatient. When she saw a gash the length of her palm on my body, she only yelled at me in disgust. Enough. If you want to die, go someplace far away. What's the point of these pathetic tricks? Fabian, I originally had no intention of divorcing you. As long as you turned a blind eye like before, I can make you my husband for the rest of your life. But now, I'm afraid you're no longer fit for the role. Later, I swallowed sleeping pills, was taken to the hospital, and failed to die. When I woke up, I finally understood. I signed the divorce papers. In the blink of an eye, 6 years had passed. My thoughts returned to the present. Nestor had already picked his fireworks. We're getting this one, Tears of the Sea. Baby, I want the same kind of fireworks you set for Fabian back then, the kind that explodes midair and shows words. I want you to write, Nestor, I love you. Margarita smiled fondly and agreed to everything. Soon, they chose a restaurant near a university for dinner. Fabian, the food here is amazing. Margarita and I come here all the time. You probably haven't had it in ages, right? Nestor held the menu excitedly, introducing the dishes to me. I maintained my faint, polite smile. I got tired of Western food when I was abroad. You two decide. After Nestor graduated, I heard he couldn't find a job, so Margarita used her own connections and influence to keep him at the university. Everyone praised them as a model couple, and I simply lowered my head with a faint smile. Indeed, other people's words are just words. They're never reliable. Nestor glanced at my clothes with a complicated expression. Fabian, what kind of work are you doing now? I paused for a moment, then answered honestly, I don't have a job at the moment. Nestor's expression instantly turned into a predictable I knew it look. He sighed. What happened back then was our fault. If you're unemployed, my wife and I can help. I heard a university is hiring security guards. I think you'd be pretty suitable. Margarita frowned slightly. Nestor. What? Did I say something wrong, baby? Nestor looked innocent and clueless. I'm just trying to help. Fabian clearly hasn't been doing well these past few years. I want to give him a hand. Seeing that I didn't deny it, Margarita didn't rebuke him further. She only turned to me and said, Nestor talks like this, careless and straightforward. Don't take it to heart. I gave a faint, ironic smile. Thanks, but you don't need to worry about my affairs. Just then, my wife Rowena called. Fabian, I just picked up our daughter from school. Where are you? Didn't you say you wanted hot pot? I've brought Autumn along. We're coming to meet you. I replied gently. Okay, I'm at the Western restaurant across from a university. When I hung up, the two of them stared at me suspiciously. Fabian, don't you have no family left in a city? Who just called? I smiled lightly. My wife. Both of them froze instantly. Nestor even shot up from his seat in shock. Fabian, you got married? Margarita's face suddenly turned pale. Fabian, there's no need to put on a front. If you're single, you're single, why lie? Chapter 5. I froze for a moment, the words of explanation rising to my throat, only to be swallowed back down in an instant. Why should I explain anything to her? A woman who hasn't even been worth the regard one gives a stranger. Someone I erased from my life 6 years ago. I'm not lying, I'm full. You all take your time. I stood up to leave, but she yanked me back. Fabian, make yourself clear before you go. I obviously asked friends in the circle to look into it. It's impossible that you're married. I couldn't help but laugh as I turned around. And what makes you so sure of that? Margarita's expression darkened. She couldn't answer, yet her eyes and her face had already betrayed what she was thinking. Margarita always carried that lofty, superior air. She'd witnessed firsthand the mess I made back then, how I fought tooth and nail to avoid divorce. So she convinced herself that even if I did divorce, I would regret it, that I would be waiting, head raised, hoping she'd turn back one day. All these years, after I married Rowena, she had sealed off every single piece of information about me. Even private investigators paid hefty sums couldn't dig up the slightest trace, which was why rumors kept spreading. Some said I'd gone abroad, others said I moved to the countryside. All false. No one knew how happy I'd been with my wife, my child, our family. Margarita still refused to believe it. Her face was pale as she clung desperately to the same question. Are you actually married, or just dating that woman? Fabian, even if you really want to enter marriage again, you need to keep your eyes open. What have you gained from being with her? Look at how you're dressed right now. Don't cheapen yourself like this, you deserve better. Margarita looked completely agitated. I, however, felt utterly baffled. Who I marry, what does that have to do with you? Besides, no matter how bad someone might be, they could never be worse than you, could they? It must have been this coat I borrowed from the security guard, making her assume my life had fallen apart. I said I'm doing well. I don't need your concern. I pulled again, harder, still didn't break free. Margarita clutched my wrist tightly, her knuckles turning white. Nestor had been watching for a while. He suddenly forced a smile and spoke. Honey, look at you, you're scaring Fabian. If Fabian says he's married, then it must be true. His words were barbed. His gaze slid toward the wedding ring on my finger, as if verifying whether it was real. But Fabian, that rock on your ring, if it's real, it's worth at least hundreds of millions, right? My wife has a point too. There are all kinds of women out there. You better make sure you're not getting conned. As he spoke, he playfully twisted the ring on his own finger in a showy manner. Look, Margarita's a university professor, and even she could only give me a 12-carat diamond. But yours. The implication was clear. He was suggesting the ring my wife gave me was fake. Since he was that ignorant, I couldn't be bothered to argue. Thanks for the reminder. I was just about to yank my arm free from Margarita when steady footsteps echoed from the entrance of the restaurant. Fabian. Chapter 6. Rowena was dressed in a striking crimson dress, her figure elegant and her presence unmistakably commanding. In her arms was a little girl with twin braids, my daughter, Autumn. The moment she saw Margarita gripping my hand, her brows tightened ever so slightly. She strode over quickly and, without fanfare, pulled me behind her. This lady, you were just grabbing onto my husband and wouldn't let go. Is there a problem? Her voice wasn't loud, yet it carried an undeniable force. Margarita's expression changed instantly, especially when she recognized Rowena. Her face drained of all color. Who in the capital didn't know Rowena? Back then, when she returned from Wall Street to take over her family's business, she was ruthless, efficient, and within a few short years, she became one of the dominant powers in half the entertainment industry. A university professor like Margarita. In front of her was nothing. President Rowena. Margarita's hand froze midair, her tone shrinking by the second. I'm Fabian's ex-wife. Ex-wife? Rowena raised an eyebrow, then lowered her gaze toward me, her expression softening instantly. Fabian, why didn't you ever mention it? I really thought your ex-wife was dead. Margarita's face flushed a livid blue, her eyes wide with disbelief. I simply smiled faintly. Not an important person. No need to bring her up. Autumn peeked out from behind Rowena and called, Daddy. I crouched down to pick her up. She kissed my cheek and said in her sweet, soft voice, Mommy said Daddy was talking to a bad person. Autumn will protect Daddy. Nestor's face turned blue, then white, then blue again as he forced a smile. So Fabian's wife is President Rowena. That's truly impressive. I thought Fabian hasn't been doing well these past 2 years, but I didn't expect he married so well. He wore an obsequious grin as he reached out to shake Rowena's hand, but she ignored him completely. Rowena wrapped an arm around my shoulder and spoke calmly. We have matters to attend to. We'll be leaving. As we walked past Margarita, she suddenly spoke up. President, Fabian, my husband's name, Rowena said coolly, is not something you're allowed to call. She gave her a cold, cutting glance. And stay away from my husband. Margarita opened her mouth, but in the end said nothing. She stood there, pale and motionless, watching the three of us leave. After finishing our hot pot, I stood by the roadside while Rowena fetched a small gift for her daughter. From not far away, I suddenly heard a loud argument erupt from the hot pot restaurant. What's with that attitude? Don't think I didn't notice. The moment you saw Fabian, your eyes wouldn't move off him. And you dare say you forgot him? Ask yourself, have you really forgotten Fabian? Every time you talk in your sleep, whose name do you call? Isn't it his, Fabian? And on my birthday last time, the fireworks. Go on. Admit it wasn't because you zoned out that you carved the words, Fabian I love you, into them. You said it was muscle memory. What a lie. Margarita, you've never gotten over Fabian. Then what about me? What am I to you? The woman finally lost patience and snapped back sharply. Shut up. Fabian and I were together for 10 years. He was supposed to be the one I grew old with. And don't forget, you were just a poor student he sponsored. If you hadn't seduced your way into my bed, would I have divorced him just to take responsibility for you? You saw it yourself. Fabian is married now. There's no future for us. What are you still whining about? I rubbed my ear. Their quarrel was so dull it made me lose all interest. So this was the so-called model couple admired by a university all these years, playing at affection on the surface, while fighting like this behind closed doors. But no matter how loud their shouting grew, none of it had anything to do with me anymore. Chapter 7. When we got home, Autumn wrapped her little arms around my neck, acting spoiled. Daddy, who were those two people from today? That auntie kept staring at you. She looked like she was about to cry. I tapped her nose lightly. Just people I used to know. We won't see them again. Autumn let out a relieved breath. Finally reassured, she hopped away, grabbed her tiny backpack, and proudly pulled out a drawing as if offering treasure. Daddy, look, I drew our family portrait. This is me, this is Mommy, and this is Daddy. I looked at the childish yet heartwarmingly happy drawing, smiling. I praised Autumn for how well she drew it. After I tucked her into bed, Rowena came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist and resting her chin on my head. Fabian, did they bully you? The moment she brought it up, her tone carried an edge of rage, a clenched teeth hatred, especially that Margarita. No. I shook my head with a smile. I just thought it was ridiculous. She probably assumed I've been miserable for 6 years and came to watch me fall apart. She really did look into you. Rowena let out a soft, amused laugh. A while ago, a private investigator tried to dig into your whereabouts. I handled it. Turns out it was her who sent him. I paused, surprised. You knew all along. She pinched my cheek. How could I not care about my husband? The truth was, I knew Rowena had already dug into my past thoroughly. After I divorced back then, left with nothing, and ended up bedridden in a hospital for half a month, she happened to be on a business trip, found me, and brought me home. She knew how much I'd suffered, which was why, for these 6 years, she had spoiled me like a child. Oh, right, Rowena said suddenly. A university is hosting a donation ceremony next week. They want me to attend the ribbon cutting. I raised a brow in mild surprise. You usually never go to events like that. I didn't need to before. Rowena smiled. But things are different now. Some people need to understand. My husband, Fabian, is not someone they can push around. Chapter 8. On the day of the donation ceremony, Rowena specifically asked me to accompany her. I wore the custom-tailored suit she had prepared for me. The moment I walked into the venue with my arm linked through hers, every gaze shifted toward me. Margarita, standing on the main stage as the school's representative, caught sight of me and instantly turned ghostly pale. The speech script in her hand nearly slipped from her fingers. Nestor stood beside her in a cheap suit that looked completely out of place next to my haute couture. His expression was twisted and ugly. Halfway through the ceremony, the host invited Rowena on stage to speak. She took the microphone, her gaze sweeping across the entire hall before finally landing on Margarita. I came today not only to donate, she said, but also to make an announcement. She lifted my hand and held it up for everyone to see. This is my husband, Fabian. Some of you may know him. 6 years ago, he suffered great humiliation here. He was even treated as a lunatic, a madman. The audience erupted. Whispers spread like wildfire. Fabian, why does that name sound familiar? Isn't he Professor Margarita's ex-husband from 6 years ago? Right. I remember he caused a huge scene on campus, saying he wanted to catch someone cheating, but the matter was suppressed later. Someone claimed he was a mentally unstable intruder. My God, and he turned out to be President Rowena's mysterious husband. Rowena surveyed the crowd with commanding authority. Her voice echoed again, clear, firm, powerful. The student my husband once sponsored became the third party who destroyed his marriage. The wife he loved for 10 years discarded him like trash. Today, I stand here to tell certain people, my husband, the man of Rowena, is not someone others get to bully. As for the debts of the past, We'll settle them slowly. Margarita's face was as white as paper, her entire body trembling. Wife, he came here for revenge. Nestor could barely stand. He nearly fainted and had to be supported by a nearby teacher. I watched them, pathetic and humiliated. Yet there was no satisfaction in my heart, no thrill of revenge, only calm, because I had already let go. Whether they were once triumphant or now being utterly disgraced, none of it had anything to do with me anymore. Chapter 9. After the ceremony ended, Margarita rushed toward me like someone who had lost her mind. Fabian, listen to me. I was blinded back then. I regret it. I truly regret it. I was slightly stunned. Margarita had always cared most about her image, her tone, her posture, her dignity. She would never raise her voice in public, let alone behave in a way that would tarnish her reputation. But now, she was clutching that old love confession journal she once wrote for me, saying she regretted everything. Rowena stepped in front of me, shielding me as she said coldly, Professor Castillo, please respect yourself. I still have things to say to him. Margarita looked at me with red, tear-filled eyes. Fabian, let's start over. Okay, I'll divorce Nestor. Everything can go to him. I just want you. I cut her off with a quiet laugh. You think that's possible? When you locked me up like a madman, watched me hurt myself and did nothing. When you told me to go die somewhere, why didn't you think of today? You said you had to take responsibility. So you divorced me and married someone else, and now you want to give up again. So I should divorce my wife for you. On what grounds? My voice was calm, too calm. My life is good now. I have a wife who loves me. I have a lovely daughter. My story has already turned the page. You and Nestor are just trash I threw away years ago. There's no need to pick it back up. Margarita froze, tears suddenly streaming down her face. I know I was wrong. Fabian, just give me one more chance. Rowena let out a cold, mocking laugh. My husband did give you chances, more than once. You destroyed all of them with your own hands. 6 years ago, she signaled to security. Escort Professor Castillo out. Don't let her be an eyesore. As Margarita was dragged away, Nestor suddenly rushed over, pointing at me and screaming, Fabian, you bastard. You did this on purpose. This whole stunt today, just to humiliate us. Right, you just wanted to ruin us. You disappeared for 6 years, but deep down you never forgot revenge. You planned this for 6 years, all to destroy us. Now, it was his turn to be treated like a lunatic. Rowena's gaze sharpened. Immediately, security stepped forward, covered his mouth, and dragged him away. No need to waste time on people like him. Rowena took my hand. Let's go home. I only glanced back one last time. Cause and effect always come full circle. That much is true. Chapter 10. After that day, Margarita and Nestor's lives fell completely apart. Rumors began spreading through the university about how they had once destroyed someone else's family. No one signed up for Margarita's classes anymore. Every course she taught was flooded with negative evaluations. Some students, young and full of righteous fury, even shouted openly in her lectures, "We don't want a professor with a messy personal life and no morals. Get out of our classroom." As for Nestor, his colleagues whispered behind his back non-stop. It wasn't long before the school fired him. I heard they argued every day. Margarita accused Nestor of being a walking disaster who ruined her life. Nestor screamed back that she was ungrateful, that without him making the first move, she would have never dared divorce in the first place. They fought from morning until night, breaking everything in their home, just like Margarita and I back then. Margarita tried to find me several times. She waited for me at the familiar cake shop, but I never appeared. Since the nanny usually picked up desserts for me, only once did she actually run into me there. I happened to go myself that day. Later, I heard she somehow discovered the volunteer center I used to help at. She finally managed to corner me. Fabian, back then you were the only husband I recognized in my heart, but after everything blew up, I couldn't ignore Nestor. He was so young. I had to take responsibility for him. Fabian, I've been looking for you for 6 years. Hearing such hypocrisy made me want to laugh. Looking for me? For what? To bully me more? To torment me harder because you didn't feel satisfied back then? Do you want to drive me out of this city again? Would that finally make you happy? Margarita's face drained of color. And no. I never thought of that. Fabian, I can't sleep anymore. Every night, I think of you. I think of the 10 years we spent together. 10 years. Fabian. A cold smile tugged at my lips. In the year she cheated, I had begged. I had broken down. I had hurt myself again and again. I questioned her with the same pain. We were together for 10 years. Doesn't that mean anything? And what did Margarita say back then? If you're done making trouble, just sign the divorce papers. I don't have time for your nonsense. Now she regrets it. Too late. I pushed her aside coldly. Move. My wife is waiting for me just ahead. If you upset her, forget losing your job at a university. You won't even be able to stay in this city. Margarita went pale, forced to step aside, but afterward, she didn't stop. Instead, she began following me every few days. Margarita once got drunk and staggered to the bottom of our building, shouting my name toward the upstairs windows, crying that she missed me. Rowena was so furious her face turned dark. Without a word, she ordered security to drag Margarita to the police station and file a harassment report. Later, I heard Margarita and Nestor had a huge fight, a violent one, leaving them both bloodied. They finally divorced. Nestor took more than half of her assets in the settlement, then immediately ran off with a rich second-generation socialite. Margarita was left alone. Suspended from her teaching position, she began drinking every day, wandering the streets like a deranged vagrant. Sometimes Autumn would ask, "Mommy, where did that crazy auntie go?" Rowena would hug her and smile, because she did something wrong. "Sweetheart." She has to spend time reflecting, leaning against Rowena, watching the sunlight spill through the window. I felt a gentle warmth in my chest. The scars from years ago may still exist, but they no longer hurt. Those who betrayed me eventually faced the consequences they deserved, and after weathering storms, I finally met the rainbow that belonged to me. I finished the last sip of milk and looked outside. Rowena changed into her fluffy pajamas and slipped into my arms. "Husband, aren't you going to sleep?" A soft feeling bloomed in my heart as I held her close. "Outside, you're still a cold, domineering CEO. Who would have thought you turn into a clingy little sweetheart at home?" Rowena buried her face against me, rubbing against my chest like a spoiled kitten. "I want to hug my husband and cling to my husband. Who's going to stop me?" In the midst of our laughter and warmth, the night no longer felt lonely.